All right, welcome back to the final round here on Yahoo Finance. Miles Udland with you in New York, and it's time now for our call of the day. And today we are talking about Citi's latest on Apple, the firm raising their price target on the stock to a street high of $400 per share. We're joined now by Jim Suva, senior analyst and managing director over at Citi, to talk through this latest note. And so, Jim, I guess let's just start with kind of your main outline here, the main reason that you're taking your price target up to $400. Apple shares moving to a record high just in the last couple of trading sessions. What have you seen as the drivers of this stock over the last couple of months as the market has really come back here?
Well, it's great to see you. As we look at the second half of this year, we believe it's going to be a very exciting time for Apple. Just merely a couple months ago, people thought that, and investors, that they would miss the 5G iPhone and the 5G upgrade cycle for Christmas. Our recent checks show that it is on track for launch in September and available in October or November time period, in plenty of time for Christmas. That, coupled with working from home, we talk about all of us wearing these AirPods, Apple Watches for fitness to keep your health in check. We think it's going to be a very exciting second half of the year for Apple, and we think it warrants a buy and a $400 target price.
And Jim, I want to ask a little bit more about the 5G component of your view for Apple here. We've discussed this for, at least on this program, it feels like a year and a half, how much of a catalyst this would be for Apple in future cycles. What do you see as, like, how important in your view is the 5G capability in phones in driving a new upgrade cycle or even bringing new users into the ecosystem?
Well, that's a great, smart question. It's important to note that typically a useful life of a phone used to be 2 years ago when we all had these contracts. Those have gone away. The subsidy contracts have gone away. So people are holding their phones a lot longer. Our work shows that most iPhones now are being held 3 to 4 years. It's almost like wearing your shoes. If you wear them every day and use them every day for 3 to 4 years, they start to wear out. Things like the ability for the battery to retain its battery charge, as well as the screen and the processor to do these newer apps. These things are very important, and we think the 5G upcycle will bring a new wave of upgrades. Now, to be fair, what's most important is simply they need to have a competitive product on the shelf in time for Christmas. And we think the answer to that will be a great big yes.
Well, Jim, going off of that, it's interesting because, and you were saying that your channel checks show you that they're on track for their deliveries and their production and everything. That was a big concern going back a couple of months. But now that we're seeing this second wave potentially over in China, Beijing reinstating some of their stay-at-home orders, closing schools, most of the company or a lot of the company's products are made over there. So it could be a significant portion of products that could potentially be delayed. I guess, how big of a risk do you think that is for Apple here over the next couple of months?
Yeah, the resurgence of coronavirus would be a big risk and a negative. It would be. It would potentially slow down this time to market. We do note, however, that the manufacturers are still being open in China, and they put in a lot of health and safety precautions. But if the coronavirus does rear its ugly head again in the second half of the year, that would be a negative, not only for Apple, but for the entire all of IT hardware in the markets, broadly speaking. But right now, from what we see, yes, there are some hot spots that pop up, which is very sad and concerning. But overall, the supply chain and manufacturing and even store openings are coming back and coming back quite healthily.
Suva, Dan Roberts here. I remember about 18 months ago when Apple was warning about the iPhone and sales in China, and people started to get concerned about iPhone sales. A lot of the Apple bulls pivoted over to services. And they said, rah, rah, I'm still very bullish on Apple because there's services. And even if, people aren't upgrading their iPhones as quickly anymore, we've got the services. Now that we're hearing about the 5G phone and you guys saying, we think it'll be ready in time for the holiday season, everyone's back to saying, oh, good, iPhone. And, as long as iPhone sales are good, it's an iPhone company. But I'm just curious where you think that sort of divide stands now. Is everyone still saying the services are a great big fallback? How much of the excitement for the company in the next couple of years is going to be about the services versus the hardware itself?
Well, your memory and recollection is spot on. Specifically, the reason why people talk about services so more is now that Apple is disclosing that, we see the profitability is about double versus the hardware that you buy for your iPhone. So that profitability is still meaningful. What happens though is when you buy a new iPhone and it comes things with like forward cameras and the lasers and the Face ID and things like that, then your developers start to build more apps, whether it be gaming or virtual reality or augmented reality and artificial intelligence start to become more and more important. So it's kind of like a tick and a tock. Services and hardware, they need to dance and work very well together. Right now, what we're seeing, though, is with manufacturing in the first few months of the year coming to a screeching halt and the Apple stores closing for the most part due to coronavirus, that people focus more on the services, and rightfully so. We believe the second half of the year that Apple is really going to see investors focus on the hardware. And then going forward, we believe they're going to focus on other things like healthcare, augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial intelligence to open up some newer areas. But right now, for the next 6 months or so to the end of the year, it's going to be a hardware focused, but then we're going to tick and talk back to services, as you correctly stated.
And Jim, just to finish, kind of along these same lines, I think a lot about. I think there was a note out. It might have been Neil Seibert over at Above Avalon, who I'm sure you've seen his work. He argued that the AirPods are like a new platform for Apple, and it makes me think of also where does the watch fit in to all this? And maybe a couple of years ago there was a lot of concern about not having enough watch sales, but as you look at their hardware ecosystem, which as you outlined kind of complements iPhone, is just having the AirPods and having watch and having these things kind of fill in this tick and talk as you outlined. Is that enough for Apple? Like do they not need to have some new big thing because what they've got going right now sort of works on its own?
Great observation with both the AirPods and the Apple Watches that we use. They're very small, but these little small things add up. And we don't believe that the platform of Apple is based upon a one-hit wonder anymore. Now, it did back in Steve Jobs' day when he came out with the first iPhone, which was, about 12, 13 years ago. And we've come a long way from that. But now all these other things help. For example, the Apple Watch to detect when a person falls down. Hey, did they just fall down and trip, or is there a health concern there? Should you contact a loved one or the ambulance services? This healthcare to monitor your heart rate, and at some point it will also be maybe blood pressure or blood sugar levels. Maybe even your AirPods will do this also. There's just a lot more innovation. And when we think about the healthcare system, not only in America, but globally, there's a lot of opportunity for innovation there. But to answer your question directly, we don't see it being a one-hit wonder. Mm-hmm. We do see them being all small little legs that help hold up a very strong table.
All right, Jim Suva with Citi. Again, street high $400 price target on shares of Apple. The stock today is up just under 2% right now, just under $350 a share. Jim, thanks so much for joining the program. Great to get your thoughts. Hopefully we can talk again soon.
Hey investors, Zach Guzman here. Are you interested in learning more about the markets and getting the latest financial news? Well, then click right here to subscribe to our Yahoo Finance YouTube channel. Get the latest up-to-the-minute market analysis, big interviews in the world of finance, and information on how to manage your money every day wherever you are.